Mark here, another great Mark 2.0. We got a great guest for you today. You might remember him from hits like Another Fine Mess. Not the only one, but the one and only.
There you go. You got there in the end.
Chesney Hawkes. Here we go. Welcome to the podcast, Chesney.
Well, thanks for having me, boys. I appreciate it.
We're going to start out with Gordon because
Gordon's got to go. He's got better things to do.
Unfortunately, the daily grind, no matter what part of the world we're in, we've got all corners of the world represented today. I wanted to ask you, growing up, you grew up in a musical family, you have a famous father, something of a music icon. And how did you get into the music industry? How did it all start for you?
Well, as you said, I definitely had a very rock and roll upbringing. My dad was in the band called the Tremeloes, and they over here had like 13 top 10 hits. They had lots of hits stateside as well. So all of my dad's mates were like 60s superstars like Jerry Marsden from Jerry and the Pacemakers and Herman's Hermits and the Marmalade and the Searchers and all those guys. Dad always says I came out singing, so that was definitely in the blood. So when it came to kind of my time, to step up to the platform, as it were, it didn't seem like a weird thing. Fame didn't seem odd because all my dad's mates were famous, and I don't know, I kind of grew up with it, But as far as getting into the industry, my big break came starring alongside Roger Daltrey in a film called Buddy Song. I was only 17, 18 when I did that. So that was a very musical based film, which is why I wanted to do it, because I saw a route into the music industry, and thought there might be an elusive record deal at the end of it, which there was. That ended up being my first album, the soundtrack to Buddy Song, the film. So yeah, that's how it all started.
And I can't help but thinking, you're kicking somewhere around 50 years of age now.
50, yeah. I just turned 50.
Yeah, so you're, you've grown up in the industry, both peripherally, vicariously through your father, and then you're in it, and you've seen this evolution in the music industry itself, and an evolution in your own career. You went from being, I'm 56, I'm thinking of Andy Gibb. You're this young, very attractive young man. You smash onto the scene. You're a bit of a teen idol. I can see your posters up in girls' lockers, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And now you're a 50-year-old bloke. The music has evolved. You've gone from doing stadium shows, Top of the Pops. And now I imagine it's a little more intimate, a little more a closer relationship with your fans. I'd like to hear you talk about that.
That is true to a certain extent. Although I have to say, I'm playing festivals all over the place right now. I'm in the UK right now, and it's festival season. So there's a lot of what they would call, nostalgia, heritage, festivals, and they are really, really kicking off right now, like 80s and 90s festivals. I'm playing to 30,000 people every weekend at the moment. It's fantastic. Yes, there are other shows that I do, like on my tours, where I'm playing. I play acoustic tours where I play very intimate crowds. 300-400 people or something like that, which I love. I love to see the whites of their eyes, and I can really tell the stories of the songs and get into it. And I love those kind of shows. So every show is very different right now. I even I play theaters, arenas sometimes, and these big festivals and smaller acoustic venues. So yeah, it's great. It's every show is very different. I have to kind of tailor make my sets every time I go out on the road. So it's great. But this nostalgia set has been really, really fun. Those crowds, there's something about dressing up in your 80s or 90s gear, turning up at these festivals, just hanging your inhibitions at the gate and reliving your youth. There's something to be said for that. And they're the most colorful crowds and the warmest crowds that I play to right now. It's really, really fun.
So, when you're playing a festival show versus a 300-400 venue,
yeah,
I'll put it in New York terms. When you're playing, there's got to be a difference between playing Yankee Stadium, Madison Square
and
Garden,
the bitter end,
and then playing Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
And when you go to a festival show and they have a lineup of goodness knows how many bands, how many artists coming on stage.
Yeah.
When it's a crowd of 300-400 people, that's 300-400 people who are invested in seeing Chesney Hawkes.
Yes, that is the difference. They call it. I had a conversation with my agent the other day, and they call that a hard ticket act. Like when you are playing to your people that have paid money to see you. That's what's called a hard ticket act. And so, like the festivals, there's a lot of a circuit over here that are kind of like what would you call them, holiday parks where they get acts like me and maybe Go West and whatever, Tap Out, Rice of Fred, where you're all put in together and you do these sets, and so that would be called a soft ticket act, I guess. So you're there. Obviously, people, some of them will be there to see you. Some of them will be there because Right Said Fred are there or whatever. Are you a member of Right Said Fred, by the way, Gordon? You could both be members.
Now wait a minute. I didn't know we were having Monty Python on.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I should have probably pre told you about that. Yeah, rewarned you.
Oh, very good.
But yeah, it's fun. Just every show's different. That's the thing. That's the thing about that. And of course, I do. As I said, I really do enjoy the intimate ones because they are. I can bring out my jazz fusion set, man. I can do the deep cuts, and I get requests from B sides from 1995 or something. You know what I mean? And get away with doing that. I couldn't get away with doing that at these festivals. You know what I mean? They want the hits.
Well, people have a niche for nostalgia nowadays. I just went to the mixtape tour, in Vogue.
Right.
Rick Astley, New Kids on the Block, Salt and Pepper. And it was just amazing, to see a pack. It was sold out over here in Phoenix.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just great to see just the choreography, because they mixed everything up and people were, all groups were together with each other, and it was fun and harmonious,
Yeah, well, backstage at those kind of events is really fun, because it's like it's like a reunion of friends, I mean, these days they're all drinking chamomile tea backstage, wanting to get back to their grandkids or whatever,
Yeah.
I'm talking about the 80s gang. For some reason, I get I kind of get lumped in with the 80s crowd as well. So I kind of, balance both of them there. I do the 90s reunion things and then the 80s things as well. Maybe it's because I was early 90s when my big success, so yeah, I've been adopted by the 80s crowd. So I'm like their, adopted younger brother or something,
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is really fun. I mean, it's lovely to catch up with these people. And I do the same thing with, the 90s lot, and go and hang out with some of those guys that we haven't seen for a long time, and we catch up, and, it's fun. It's a really nice thing.
I wanted to ask, because Mark told me about his concert and all the bands, that he had seen, all the artists he had seen. And one of the first questions I asked Mark, I was curious about the lineup, because you're at a festival show, tens of thousands, and performers have egos.
Some of them. I mean, I say that that if you had a big ego, when you're young, that probably would have waned a little bit when you get to our age. I mean, that's not true for some. Believe me, that they're still there. But sorry, you should carry on with your question. You didn't give me a.
I was just curious as to whether the politics behind the scene. The question I asked Mark was, how did they do the lineup? Who gets to, who's the opening?
Who goes first? Who goes second?
Yeah, sure.
For that show, Mark told me they intersposed it. New kids would do a couple songs, Rick Astley did and you couldn't really tell. Whoever you were there to see primarily, you would say, well, they were the star of the show.
Sure. I mean, I think with these kind of festivals, there isn't really a headline as such. There might be sometimes, like if someone like Billy Ocean will be there, he'll, someone who's like obviously had like, 10 times more hits than a lot of the others, then sometimes they get to have the headline slot. And what is the headline slot? Is it sundown? Maybe. I think it says the sun goes down should be the headlining slot, but really traditionally headlining is the last person on, right? So it's kind of like the, at a festival, it would be like, 9, 10 o'clock, that kind of thing. But, we don't really, nobody really cares about that stuff backstage. We're all like happy to just be still making music and still making money playing music. I mean, we're so lucky to be able to do this job. The egos, as far as that is concerned, in most cases are very much in check. We've all been through so much over the years. We all knew each other back in the day. And we're all the same, really. I mean, that's kind of my thinking on it anyway. And as I said, there are exceptions that will probably say, well, I'm not doing that unless I'm the headliner. It can happen.
Well, unfortunately, I have to cut out, and Mark's gonna keep going with you. But I want to ask one last question before I head.
Sure.
And that's about the difference between. Now, you're based out of LA now.
Yeah.
So you grew up in London.
Yep.
And there is a distinct difference, I believe, between the European music scene and the North American, the United States, the music scene. And I just was interested in your take, having had feet in both swimming pools, so to speak. How do they differ? How are they the same?
It's funny, when I was young and first started putting out records, the record company would always say, right, we've got to do a mix for the American market. And I always found that weird. I always thought, well, why? The record's a hit here and it sounds great. Why do you have to change it? And that used to happen all the time. I'm not sure if it happens quite the same these days. But as far as like the difference, between the English and American, it's just a different feel and it's a different culture. It's where it comes from. You know what I mean? It's like for me, my kind of musical background is Beatles, Kinks, and of course all my dad's old cronies. So it was kind of like, melodic and interesting and slightly edgy, that kind of thing. Whereas I think what was coming out of America, especially on the West Coast at that time, was a little bit more smooth. Obviously, if you go down south, you kind of got all the blues influence, which definitely, infiltrated over to the rock and roll, and then maybe came over to like Stones, kind of brought that back over, But I think it's a melting pot. I really do. It's like it all depends on your taste. I find, I mean, I'm in LA and it's a little bit more kind of, hardcore rock, or a bit more shreddy guitar and stuff like that, a bit goth, and, everyone wearing black and jeans and eyeliner and painting your nails and things like that, which isn't really my kind of music, but then, but then Americans love English music, so they love the Beatles, they love the Kinks, they love all of that stuff. So I think there's these days there's a definite to and fro as far as like stateside to the UK. You know, I think American bands have influenced UK people, UK artists, and vice versa. You know, so like, country music has become, you know, quite a big thing over here now. I mean, it's not obviously what it is in the States, but there is a definite subculture of country fans over here, and they'll do country festivals over here, and it sells out. People love it, you know. So, you know, it's a worldwide thing these days. You know, I mean, obviously there are certain styles that will always be, you know, considered an Americana, you know, and there's certain styles that are going to be considered, you know, different places of the world, I guess, you know. But I grew up, I don't know if you know this, guys. I grew up in Nashville when I was a kid. I was there for like 5 years, from age 5 to 9, or something like that, 4 or 5 to 9 years old. And so my first taste of contemporary music was Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings and, you know, Chris Christopherson. Yeah, exactly. All of that, the kind of outlaws of country music. And I absolutely bloody love that. I love country music in that kind of country music, Americana rock. You know, I love Chris Stapleton, for instance, you know. So I feel like there's a little part of me, like I have a little old country heart, you know. So
I was
maybe one
say,
day
I can tell by your accent that you're from Tennessee.
You know what I'm saying to you?
You do that well.
Oh, God damn it. Bless your heart.
Chesney, I apologize that I have to run. I had a blast talking to you. I know you'll continue having a blast with Mark. So,
yeah.
And I want to wish you the best on your tour.
Thank you. It's great to meet you, and good luck with your on your tour with Right Said Fred. I hope you have
Great.
I'm going to Brodsky Beat now. All right.
Fair enough. You take care of it.
Yeah.
Have a good one at work today. Bye now.
Yeah. Now, Chesney, with you being in Nashville, like you said, is that the reason why your dad made, I remember he made Ghost Riders in the Sky. My dad was a diehard Johnny Cash fan, and I loved your dad's version of it.
Yeah.
So was that why he made albums like that?
You know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what yes, what happened in 1975, I think it was. So I would have been 4 or 5 years old. He got offered a record deal by RCA, and they wanted to make a country album with Roger Cook as a producer. And so Dad just he had 3 kids at that point, all under 5 and under, and he upsticks with all of us, and we moved to Nashville, and he made this incredible country album with just like the proper Nashville cats of the time, you know. And I would love that. I love that record. It's like Chip Hawkes country album, complete with Dad on a horse, on the front cover. And yeah, Ghost Riders in the Sky was on it. I mean, there's a load of my dad's songs on there. He also did a country version of Eleanor Rigby, would you believe?
Oh, wow. Okay.
On that record. Yeah. It's a great album. I mean, I was, grew up with that record because I was so young when he made it, So yeah. I need to get him to put that out on Spotify or get it out on streaming services. It's not there yet.
Exactly. Now, one thing that I remember from my childhood is like when you go on family vacations, you always have those albums that you're playing in the car. What was it like for your family being so musical? What were some of your favorite albums to listen to?
Well, my dad was very eclectic, to be honest. I mean, Beatles were huge for him. But he loved, Motown. He loved like Stevie, I grew up with, I guess, early days would be like Elvis Costello. He loved the Eagles, so going to American bands like, he loved the Beach Boys. I mean, that's the kind of music that kind of, I guess started everything for me, kind of, paint the first brush strokes on my canvas was those kind of great artists, Fleetwood Mac. I just love Fleetwood Mac even to this day. I love. But then as I got older and I started kind of branching into my own era, as it were, it was Prince. It still is the greatest for me.
Sure.
Then then artists like Nick Kershaw, Duran Duran, those kind of 80s classics. I really loved Kate Bush,
Oh yeah.
Peter Gabriel. I mean, so many, Paul Weller, so many. I could just keep going.
And over in Europe and the UK especially, they had so many more hits that we didn't even hear about. I'm a diehard Nick Kershaw fan, and the only thing we could get on the air, like when they had 80s at 8, is Wouldn't It Be Good?
Wouldn't it be good? Yeah, and maybe The Riddle if you're lucky.
Yeah, not in Michigan where I grew up, unfortunately, but it's
Well,
what's it like to work with him?
My wife is from northern Indiana, so right on the border of Michigan there. So I've spent a lot of time there.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, my relatives are from southern Indiana. So
right. Okay, so there you go. Was it like to work with Nick? Well, he's been my musical mentor since I can remember. I mean, we met when I was like 18, and I was such a massive Nick fan as a teenager. The Human Racing album was just phenomenal, in my top 5 still. And so to meet him was an absolute dream, and to work with him, and we've written songs for 30 years now together. I've had songs on his albums, he's had songs on my albums, and I count him as one of my best friends now. But anyone that hasn't seen him live, I recommend you go see him if at all possible. He doesn't really play in the States that often, but sometimes he'll venture stateside. But yeah, it's true. He didn't have the success in the States that he deserved.
no, not at all. He should have had massive worldwide success. All of his albums were great,
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, phenomenal artist, an incredible guitar player as well.
Oh yeah,
really. Yeah. Well, for me, he's he's an absolute jewel in the crown over here.
Sure. Now, how did your song get into the movie Doc Hollywood?
That's a good question. I mean, it's kind of like the holy grail to try to get your song. It certainly was back then. I guess it is still now, to get your song in a Hollywood film. And at the time, Michael J. Fox was hot, man. Just come off of a massive run of huge hits and Back to the Future stuff and Teen Wolf and all that. And he was on a roll, and Doc Hollywood came right at the peak of all that stuff for him. And I think it must have been the record label, because that was like the holy grail, to get your song in a film like that was just coming out. And I think getting the song onto that film kind of put it over the edge in the States for me. It was also an incredible sync, because right at the very beginning of the film, it started with the intro to The One and Only. It played the whole song with Michael J. Fox in a red boxed Porsche,
exactly,
all the way through the credits for like the whole of the 3.5 minutes of the whole song. And as soon as the song ended, he crashed the Porsche, and then they went into the film. It was just, that never happens. It's like you may get 30 seconds if you're lucky, but to have the whole song was like an incredible coup. Yeah, so kudos to whoever got that.
Yeah. And why do you think that none of your other songs charted in the US? Because all of your music is just really inspiring.
Well, thank you very much. It's politics and timing, and it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. But I guess these things happen. You have to have all of the kind of mixture of everything all in one kind of pot, if you know what I mean, including the extra sprinkle of fairy dust that is needed to put it over the edge. And I do have a little bit of a pang with that. When I first had success in the States, I was flying over here in Europe and really doing well, and I was flitting between all the countries over here in Europe and touring. I wish I had taken the time to tour more in the States. I did tour back in the early 90s, but you know, you find that the people that make it in the States properly are the ones that put in the time to tour, you know, and I really just concentrated on the rest of the world, Europe and you know, Japan and Asia and stuff like that. And I look back on those times and think, shit, I wish I'd have spent some more time in the States, because who knows what would have happened, you know.
Do you think in the future you'll be able to, like, I just recently saw Colin Hay of over here in
Oh,
Phoenix.
Men at Work. He's
Yeah.
so great. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
he's
yeah.
amazing, and he's such a
Yeah.
storyteller.
Yeah, he's great.
Unreal.
Yeah, wonderful artist. You know, great songwriter,
And a great
singer,
soul, man.
and a great soul. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was a time in the 90s where him and I were supposed to be working together. It didn't work. It didn't actually happen in the end, but there was talk of us writing songs together. So, hey, I'd love to do that at some point. Maybe never say never, right?
Yeah. Now explain to the listeners about the Heritage Chart, because I've seen the Heritage Chart from you know, Owen Paul's on there, and
Yeah.
all these iconic artists. Explain what that is.
Well, it's a new chart. This was, I guess, been going for about 3 years now, maybe, where it kind of concentrates on people that have you know, been around for a while, should we say. It is not just heritage artists. It's people that, you know, that are not like brand new artists, and it's you know, so their records that are largely ignored by kind of, you know, mainstream radio, like Radio 1 over here and Radio 2, and I'm sure kind of the K-Rocks of the world.
Yeah.
You know, we don't really get the opportunities to get played, and to get recognized, you know, and so the Heritage Chart came along, and it's a voting chart. So it's not even like sales or anything. It's like people actually vote for their favorite songs, and that's what counts towards the charts, you know. So it gives artists like me, Nick Kershaw, you know, Go West, Howard Jones, as you said, Owen Paul. There's all sorts of
Even Americans like Mickey Dolenz is on there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And it gives an opportunity for these artists to get, you know, some kind of exposure, you know, and I've just come off a #1 record on there, which is amazing, you know, and now I get to play that song and say, this is my latest #1.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
So people love that, you know, and it's getting more and more recognized and getting more and more traction. So yeah, it's great. heritagechart.co.uk, I think it is, if anyone's interested. Yeah.
Now, with the One and Only, there was a period where you got sick of it. Explain that. And also, did you ever realize that song would be such a massive hit? I think, you know, you can go into like a supermarket, you know, they play those playlists. You always hear it on there. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, no, I sometimes, I've heard it myself walking around Whole Foods in LA, and like,
oh yeah,
I know that voice. You know, I've had, you know, friends kind of calling me from Walmart, you know, saying, "Oh, you're on." So no, I mean, you listen. I was very young when I put that out. I was like 19 years old when that record came out, and I had no idea that it was going to be, you know, I was still going to be talking about it 30 years later, and that it was going to be such a huge success. But you know, I'm very grateful for it, and I feel like that song has kind of, you know, kept me going, as it were. You know, it's always fun to play now. I didn't play it for many years after the kind of crazy time, because I guess I wanted to be in Radiohead and turn up to 11 and shoegaze, which I did for a while. And anyone asks for the One and Only, I tell them to bugger off.
But that was the 90s, wasn't it? You know, that was that era.
That was, I was right through the 90s. You know, I wasn't even going out as me. You know, I had like different band names and everything. So I eventually kind of came back to going out as me, and then never looked back, really, to be honest, in early 2000s. And you know, now I'm very much friends with the song. You know, we get on now. And I feel like also that, you know, I don't even kind of like I've given up ownership to it. It's like I'm more of a custodian to
Yeah.
the record. It belongs to the people that have emotional connections to it. And over those 30 years, I really have had incredible stories. People saying, it was the first dance at my wedding, it was played at my brother's funeral, it was my dad's favorite song, or whatever. It was playing when I met my girlfriend. And it's so many amazing stories that I've heard and over the years. And so, that's why I say now that, when I play it, it's not about me at all. It's about people that have a connection to it in some way.
No, and that's what Owen Paul said about My Favorite Waste of Time. And both of your careers are really similar as far as the record labels and, what happened with both of your careers.
Yeah. Owen and I see each other all the time. Actually, we cross paths,
Excellent.
at these heritage festivals, and he's got a great voice, Owen, and that's a great record. So yeah, we talk about that. We have similar trajectory, as it were.
Yeah, that's great. So in the future, do you think you will be touring in the US ever, or?
Yeah, I do sometimes gig in on the West Coast. I still do that now and again. It's been a couple of years since I've played, but I guess that's COVID for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would like to. I would like to play in the States. I don't know what the market would be like. Whether it's something that is viable for me. It all depends on whether people will be interested in seeing me.
Sure.
I mean, I guess I could tag onto the back of some of these heritage festivals that are happening all over the States at the moment, and try that out first. And I would love to. It would be lovely to get out there again.
Well, I know the Colin Hay concert I went to was packed, and it was at Scottsdale Performing Arts Center out here. There's a lot of good venues I know in Phoenix out here.
I love Scottsdale, by the way. I got friends over there. Yeah, that's a great part of the world. And the Museum of Musical Instruments is there, which is incredible. Yeah. What an amazing place.
Right now, though, it's 111 degrees. So
yeah, that's true. It's a little bit sticky over there right now.
Yeah. Now, what about your acting career? I know music is, your priority, but do you think you'd get into any acting in LA?
Yes, music is always going to be number one for me, and always has been. And that's probably why I've not really concentrated on my acting. I mean, over the years, I've done films, I've done TV, I've done a lot of musical theater as well, actually.
Sure.
I've played Joseph, played Jesus in Godspell. And I will carry on doing that kind of stuff. And I absolutely would love to do some more acting. It's just sometimes it's hard to balance those two sides of me. When music will always win out, because it's something that is so close to my heart. But yeah, I never say never with music, for sure. With acting, for sure.
Now, because of Buddy's song, were you particularly typecasted, or what happened with the acting, or you just focused more on the music?
I just focused on the music. It wasn't anything to do with typecasting at all. In fact, of the small amount of parts that I played when I was younger, they were very eclectic. I played a drug dealer. I played, a kind of boy next door stuff. I really did kind of go across the board there. But it was literally because my music career took off so crazily. I really did want to concentrate on that, and that's something that ever since I was a kid, was all I wanted, if you see what I mean. So
yeah.
So I thought, okay, that's my path, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember you in Prince Valiant, and I will say, good luck finding a copy of that, right?
Oh, I know. Yeah, Blink and You Miss Me as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I played this stable boy, didn't I? Yeah. But that was a fun experience too. Working with some fun people.
Sure, definitely. Well, with Buddy's song, you were just like a natural in it, really.
Well, thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah, to be honest, I had never acted before at that point. I really related to the character. His life was quite similar to mine. I was a young musician, a young songwriter, so I could very much kind of relate to that side of it. I guess the only difference was the was the fact that his parents were divorcing, and so the whole broken home thing, I had to kind of like dig deep with that. But yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Sure. Now, what's the difference between you going out playing your music and I've seen gigs where you're playing your dad's music with your dad?
Oh, well, that's just because my dad hasn't been very well. And
Mm.
he goes out sometimes on these 60s tours. You know, this is the latest one, a 60s Gold tour with Jerry and the Pacemakers and the Herman's Hermits, with the Marmalade. Sometimes PJ Proby's on there. Gary Puckett's doing this next one. So, and because my dad hasn't been well, you know, the last tour, I kind of like took over for a little bit to kind of give him a break. And you know, basically I did the Tremeloes set.
Yeah.
And you know, he unfortunately was unwell for the whole tour, so I ended up finishing the whole tour.
Mm.
And then the promoter asked if I would be involved this year. So there's a tour October, November this year, which I have agreed to be involved in, and hopefully my dad will be able to do a few of the shows. But basically, I am going to be, you know, taking the reins of the Tremeloes again. So
Yeah.
that's all it is. I'm trying to keep the legacy going. I'm trying to keep the Tremeloes alive, and because there's such amazing songs, and
Oh,
so,
yeah. Your dad is a complete legend. I mean, make sure to let him know. I mean,
I will tell him, Mark. I will absolutely tell him you said that.
Yeah.
And I agree. He's a rock star. You know, he is
Yeah.
totally legendary. It's big boots to fill. You know?
Sure. Now, do you feel like you've reinvented yourself, and with your music, you've only just begun to scratch the surface, that you got a lot of life left?
I think every artist will say that exactly that. It's not that I'm in reinventing myself. I think that, you know, as you get older, your music changes, your the way that you think changes. So your lyrics are obviously going to be, you know, more introspective, more kind of, you know, maybe nostalgic. You know, I'm writing about my kids. I'm writing about, you know, different things in my life, and you know, as you get older, your music is going to kind of like mature in some way. You know, you're going to experiment with different kind of styles and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say it's reinvention. I would just say it's a natural kind of curve. I have a new record coming out, hopefully early next year, produced by Jake Gosling, who actually is Ed Sheeran's producer. He actually discovered Ed Sheeran, so he's this. So this is a fun project that I'm very proud of. You know, and you know what, Mark, once an artist, always an artist. So
Sure.
I will always be making music.
Now, what was it like to perform on Top of the Pops? Because that was massive over there.
Oh, well, I grew up watching Top of the Pops, and you know, when I first made it, and I was asked to come and perform on Top of the Pops, I thought, that's it. I've made it. I'm top of the tree now. But then actually, you know, physically doing it was a little bit of a letdown, to be honest with you, because it was, you know, as a kid, I remember watching it, and the crowd was always looked like amazing, and everyone's having the greatest time, and there's like, you know, there's Duran Duran there, and there's Adam Ant on there, and I was just like, wow, this is incredible. But then actually doing it, it was like, you know, you're on a very small stage, and the crowd really is just kind of like whoever's in the BBC canteen. Let's just get them all together and make them look like a big crowd, you know.
Yeah,
and you do your bit, and then suddenly it's all over. And you know, I thought I was going to be, you know, having a drink at the bar with Bryan Adams and Cher, and and I, you know, after that first performance, I got you know, whisked off to some other TV show or something, and I was like, oh well, okay, that's that then. I guess I've done Top of the Pops.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. When I lived in LA for 10 years, and I dabbled when I was working in doing some extra work, you know, just to fly on the wall on these TV shows, and you get there and you're like, that's, you know, it's really tricked on some of these scenes, you know. It looks like it's a big concert or something, and it's just that, you know. So
yeah, they just kind of you know, make it look like they've got 1,000 people there, and it's all magic trickery, cameras and lights.
Definitely. That's great. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Let all the listeners know where they can find your music and where your concerts are at.
Oh, sure. Well, if you just go to chesneyhawkes.com, that is, you know, Galactic Central Point. If anyone's interested, I've just put out a box set of all my music from 91 right to 2012. So it's a nice little box set. So if you want to maybe come check out me live, it's all there, chesneyhawkes.com.
And he will be coming to America soon, right?
Well, I live in LA, so I'll be back. I'll be back there
I mean,
next week.
if Colin Hay can do it, and he lives in LA too.
Yes, I know, absolutely. Yeah,
excellent.
It's where the cool cats hang out.
Yeah, sure. I really appreciate you coming on. Such a legend. You're one of the best.
Bless you.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. I